Hey everybody, it's Robert coming to you with another adventure into history. Today Cecil and I are down in Sumter County, Georgia. Previously on another video we saw the ruins of an old schoolhouse, and we're about to take a look at the ruins of another old schoolhouse that may be a little bit older than the other one that we looked at. This was a schoolhouse for African Americans, and it was kind of associated with a church. This is a site that I've wanted to revisit. I came here a very long time ago and looked at this old schoolhouse. And when I looked at it back then, it was not in the best shape in the world, but it was not completely falling in like it is today. So I'm a little bit sad to see that it has really deteriorated here. But we're going to document it as best we can, what's left before it completely vanishes. So we're really going to have to watch our step in here. I think, if I remember correctly, this building is late 1800s. At some time it had this old asphalt siding on it, the old fake brick asphalt. We can see some better example of that in just a moment. Oh, spooky. Spooky.
There's not much floor left.
You know, Cecil, I like going off with you. I generally have a good time, but usually it's me going first. It's usually I hear after you, Robert.
There's that old bicycle chain. The bicycle lock.
Yeah. Just about all that's left of this old structure. There's a little one-room schoolhouse for African American children. Again, I think this was built late 1800s, maybe pretty soon after emancipation. You got an old piano that remains in here. I wonder if this may have been in here while it was a school, or could have been something that was taken out of the church. All this glass is breaking under my foot. Someone is, you know, all these old structures frequently get vandalized. I don't know, maybe the window panes just fell out though after looking at that, because the casings are still kind of there. They're just in bad shape from decay. Bear, Bros and Company. The patents are 1881, 89, and 90. If that helps us determine how old the old piano is. Let's see. Nope. No kind of noise out of it. But it's hard to envision this as a schoolhouse that it used to be. It really is. You know, we just look at these lifeless ruins today and can't help but think of, or I can't help but think of the, you know, kids that were taught here. And that's spooky. Don't stand under that. But yeah, just very simple timber frame building here that served as a school for African Americans in this area. Beside us, church, which is an old church. Here there's a cemetery and graveyard, rather, attached to it. But go ahead, Cecil. And again, I'm sad. There's a really good photo of this that was taken on, I believe it's Historic Rural Churches of Georgia, has a really good photo of this building when it was in much better shape. And I did come visit this. I don't remember if I filmed it or not, but I did at the very least come visit this building before it had completely fallen like it has today. So I'm a little sad. I'm sad to see that's further decay, because it is a piece of history, and with the whole goal of preservation or documentation of these sites, we want to get them before they get quite in this state, but we can at least still see what it used to look like. And there's really good examples of this old fake brick asphalt siding. Just a real basic structure. But its history is pretty incredible when you think about it. And there is the Associated Church. You see the addition on the front and the old wooden building behind. There are a couple interesting graves we're going to take a look at out here. I hate that. It makes me sad. It makes me sad I didn't get back here in time to get this while it was fully standing. I guess there's pictures of it. So it has been preserved through documentation in that way. Just wanted one more little in-depth video look at it. And here's the old church. It's an old building that has an addition built on the front out of cinder block. So we can't see the original entrance to it because it's hidden. By that addition, or maybe, is this the entrance back here?
Yeah, it's got the double doors back here.
Interesting. This is faced in a different way than I would expect. That's a very nice structure in and of itself. And this again is a historic African American church. We'll take a closer look at it in just a moment, but probably built around the same time as the schoolhouse. I'd say late we can find out when it was built. Look at this. I'm about to say late 1800s. Let's see if I was right.
(1915), renovated.
Christ the Cornerstone, Mountain Creek AME Church, renovated 1915 by Reverend S. Field, pastor. So it was renovated in 1915, but I don't know when it was built. That's cool though. I love a build. I'd say late 1800s, maybe right after emancipation, so 1870s at the earliest, probably.
There's some pretty early graves out here. You can probably kind of date it.
Yeah, that is true. The cemetery is still being used today. You can see the painted concrete markers. We've seen a couple of those down in this county.
I think they call that Haint Blue.
Haint Blue.
I don't know the reasoning for it on the grave markers, but Haint Blue used to be what they painted around the front entryway and front porches of the antebellum houses.
That's right.
Supposed to ward off spirit. Me and my wife surveyed this one last week.
Yeah.
And there is somewhere over here, I believe there's some twins that are buried in the woods. Yeah, they're right up there.
And into the woods. Let's see how many briars there are back here. Isaiah man and Isaac man. 42645. Twins buried there. Big more block. Let's see, this is it says love at the top. Mariah Watson died September 1st, 1895, age 120 years. Wasn't there an article that said it was her daughter?
Her daughter supposedly also lived to 120. I think her brother lived to 122, and somebody else made it was 100 years old at the time, according to the family.
According to the family. And they said that, I don't remember if it was the daughter or Mariah that would often tell stories of growing up in the antebellum South and having been born into slavery. It was actually a pretty interesting story because it said that her parents had been stolen, like from another plantation. Someone went up and stole, they were enslaved on a different plantation, and somebody stole them from that plantation and brought them down here. And she apparently told many stories of growing up in the antebellum South. So if she lived to be 120 years old, if that's correct, that's a heck of a life, and I would love to hear her stories. I wish that they had been documented in some fashion, because that's incredible. Like Cecil said, her daughter also lived to be 120 per the family record. Isn't she buried here?
Yes, but I believe she's unmarked.
And her brother is marked, though, right?
I don't think he's buried here, though.
Gotcha. Okay. If she was 120 years old, oftentimes people who were born into slavery did not know their exact age. And her daughter, when did her daughter die? Her daughter was born into slavery too, I think.
Yeah, it was right before emancipation, I believe. There's a article I've got saved. I don't know if I got enough signal to get to it here or not.
It's interesting. What's the 120 years old is?
The oldest confirmed person was 122, and she passed away back in 97. She lived in Italy.
We don't know if she was, and I'm not saying it to doubt it, but you know, the family said that she was 120 years old, so it's engraved on her stone. We're gonna believe that she was 120 years old. It is one of the things where it's a little bit harder to believe that the rest of her family lived to be 120 years old, 122 years old, and so on and so forth. Not that I'm questioning it, because that's what the family said, and they are deceased, so we're going to believe that was right. But it does make you question a little bit when you see the deaths of 120, 122 years old. But there's one point that both Miss Margaret Pitts and her father both lived in Waverly Hall. Miss Margaret Pitts died at, they both lived to be over 100. So maybe it was really, really good genes. I believe Cecil's looking up the article, or looking up more graves, but while he does that, this is Edna Daniel, died March 17th, 1904, age 71 years. At the bottom it says, at rest. And there are other, is that a wooden headstone? There's a wooden headstone. And going out of my way to document the old wooden headstones. People have a hard time believing that wood will last as long as it does, too. So maybe I shouldn't be so quick to question 120 years old on a grave, because this wood will last. We've seen wooden headstones that are documented to be at least 100 years old. Don't know how old this one would be, but this old heart pine, and this is old Georgia longleaf pine. It turns into basically fat lighter. It becomes extremely hard. It is insect and rot resistant. It's extremely hard, extremely dense. You can't buy wood like this anymore. This came from the old growth pine trees that used to be all over this area. That's what, you know, that church over there is mostly built out of, and that schoolhouse probably has some longleaf pine wood in it. So this wood will last a real long time, even exposed to the elements. Now, in the Piedmont region, that's like Harris County, Talbot County, other places we explore, we do not find wooden headstones or even wooden grave shelters as often. I believe it has to do with not only the long-lasting effects of this wood, but it also has to do with the fact that this is sandy, well-drained soil. So the soil doesn't hold water. The water seeps right through it, helps this wood dry out quicker and to last very much longer. Okay. Who's that? Eddie Foster Jr. Born let's say 1918, died in 1994.
I don't think you've crawled through enough thorns today, but there's a small headstone in there if you want to go try to read it.
If you hadn't have seen it, I wouldn't have seen it, and I wouldn't have to go crawl through it, but I guess I do now. Any luck with that article? Or do we just, if we don't have signal in here, I can put it in the video and post.
Just trying to pull up.
Yeah. And say, if it doesn't pull up, I'll put it in the video and let you guys read it, because it is very interesting to read this. So this grave is up against a cedar tree, another large cedar tree like I've talked about before. These cedars down here get a whole lot bigger than they do with the cedars back home, back in the Piedmont. Maybe they like the sandier soil. I think the longleaf pines like sandier soil. And if you say, if longleaf pine is so great, why don't we use it today? Because it grows extremely slow. You will see longleaf pines that are about this high, and someone will come up and say, that is a 20-year-old tree there. And longleaf grows slow, dense, the best pine there is. Only recently have people really started replanting it, but you only get like one harvest in a lifetime, if that. And it's still not going to be the same quality of the real old wood. Let's see. Selma D. Jacob died or born. It is born. Born in 04. Let's see. Y'all read that at home. I can't read it. I think it's 1908. I can't read it, and I can't get any closer. Ow. You'd already surveyed that one, right?
Yeah, I got photos of it.
One of the older African Americans of Sumter County died a few days ago, claimed by relatives to be 120 years old, in the person of Frances Waters. This death brought to light others in the century-old class, as she has a brother who says he's 122 years old. Also, there is a son who is reported to be around the 100 mark. Both Frances and her brother, Sam Watts, are formerly enslaved, and there are no adequate records of their birth date. But Sumter County African Americans believe all that is claimed along the lines of their longevity. According to the deceased woman's son, Green Waters, both she and Sam were stolen in North Carolina and sold at auction here sometime before the war between the states. Green Waters was born during the war and remembers many tales of the antebellum South his mother used to tell. So I believe that Frances Waters, who died at 100 years old, that was the daughter of Mariah over here. So really interesting. And man, if we could talk to her, she'd have a lot of stories for us, I'm sure. All right, so over here we have Rendy Floyd, born July 15th, 1877, and what's over there? Oh, that's nice. That was already broken. Just want you guys to know. February 4th, 1912. Put it back like it goes. There we go. Then over here, let's see who we have. We got George Floyd, born June 12th, 1900, died February 11th, 1912, just born 12 years old. So just kind of walking through the newer section of burials is, like I mentioned earlier, they're still using this cemetery here. And just thought I'd show kind of something interesting. We see makeshift grave markers, historically speaking, quite a bit. And this is modern makeshift grave markers. We've got a caution cone that's serving as a grave marker with a piece of pipe in it. And then 3 graves here that are also marked with rebar and caution cones. So just kind of interesting to see here that that kind of comparison of the old style of makeshift marker we've seen in the past to something like this. You know, it's interesting as time moves on. Kind of like the old wooden headstone even over there, although wood was somewhat frequently used. It should be interesting for the next people who come along in a long time to document places like this, and would it be overgrown like so many we see are? Don't know. Things to think about as time marches forward. So we circled back around to the church. This concrete part also has a cornerstone laid in it that says 1990 on it, and that's probably when this was built here. So lots of 100 years of history right there when you think about it that way. I wanted to kind of look at the building, see if maybe we just couldn't take a little peek inside, but I don't think we're going to be able to see anything because the window has that screen on it. Love documenting these old churches. It looks like it's built with square nails. Square nails are, generally speaking, we can date something like that as to prior to 1880. Round nails were invented. The technology to create round nails was invented in 1880, and square nails very quickly went out of fashion because round nails could be mass produced. That said, you have to understand that there were also stores of square nails left over, and structures. We've seen structures as late as early 1910s built with square nails. Also regional differences vary. Also socioeconomic differences vary too. That being said, these are very, very large old square nails. These are more so the old hand-forged type, which is interesting to see, versus the cut nails. If you look at the size of those aren't really cut nails. Those are like truly square nails. So that's pretty interesting there alone. Would love to have an idea of the history of this building and an exact date on it. But it's a beautiful old wooden building, still being used to this day. Really neat stories in the cemetery over there with the lady who died at 120 years old. I believe that her daughter is also here, who also died at 120 years old, just in an unmarked grave. And of course, we have the incredible remains of the schoolhouse over here, which still saddens me a little bit that it's in this condition by the time I got back around here to do one of these documentations on it. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. As always, a big shout out to Cecil for everything that he does. While we were out here, he did a find a grave request for one of the graves out here. So he's always working on something in that way. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we will see you next time on another adventure into history.